What's going on, boys? Daddy Big here. I want to welcome you back to the podcast. We are here with Danny,
Hey guys, Daniel Sturdy here.
and today we're going to be talking about a little something called your true self. We're going to be talking about the real me. You know what I mean? And so yeah, just like this is kind of an interesting question someone posed to me a while back. Is like, what is your true self? You know, like what is it? What does that mean? You know, because there's kind of in media, there's this idea that like there's this like very prevalent idea of your true self and like showing your true self, and it's like, really, what does that actually mean? You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
is there anything you wanted to start off with there?
Well, so I have done quite a bit of research on the psychological sides of self and selves. And part of this can go back to like the id, ego, and superego aspect of the mind, which is a little more outdated,
Getting
but still
scholarly here.
still holds some relevance. Where they're the three parts that make up who you are. You've got your unconscious thought. You have yourself, your conscious, and then you have your mind. And the best iteration of this is the Emperor's New Groove meme, where it's Kronk and the angel and the devil on his shoulder, and it's no, he's got a point.
No, got a point.
Where what makes you you, it kind of shows that there isn't just one thing. By having, even if you want to look solely at the id, ego, and superego, that's three parts. That is three versions of yourself that all collectively are you.
Yeah, and that's kind of the conclusion I reached when I thought about it a lot, is that, you know, someone's true self is really all parts of them. You know what I mean? And I don't think that. I mean, do you think that any one part is more important than the other? Because I mean, like, oftentimes it's like people say that, like, oh, it's like there's, the face you show to everyone. There's the face you show to your close friends and family, and then there's the face that's you when you're alone, and that's the truest reflection of yourself. But like, do you really think that there's like levels of varying importance or relevance to different versions of oneself?
Yes. And I'd honestly, I disagree with the mindset that the face you show to just like yourself is your truest version, and you didn't say it, but I'll say it without putting words in your mouth. The most important version of yourself.
Yeah.
I think,
Or like more, the more precise way to word it would probably be the truest
yeah.
version of yourself. Like, what is there different levels of trueness?
I think, in terms of importance, at least, I think the face that you show the majority of people is the most important, because it's the most broad. It's the most broad sense of understanding that you can give to people. I love my friends. Like, all my close friends, I know I can, and you can't see this, people listening, but I'll air quote it for you. I can be myself around them.
Yeah.
And there are things that, I would say and do to my close friends that I wouldn't do to some random person I'm holding the door for at a grocery store.
Yeah.
But you have to put value and importance in how you interact with people in an everyday setting, because I can be a jerk to my friends and they know that I'm just being like, I'm trying to be funny. But if I make that same if I take that same scenario and I apply it to someone who I don't know very well, they're just going to think I'm a jerk.
Interesting. So you think that the most important is how you show yourself to everyone,
Yes.
but the most true is how you are with yourself?
Yes.
So you think there's an inverse relationship between importance and trueness?
I think I don't think this can be defined as a linear graph per se.
I mean,
think,
yeah, it's not.
yeah.
It's never that easy. But
Yeah, I
just
don't-
like to kind of put it, like if it's more of a spectrum, you know.
Sure, yeah, I think it's importance on one end and trueness on the other. I think you can be true and untrue in every aspect, though. I think it's more of a. I'm not really sure how I would quantify it, but like I think it's different test trials with everyone you're interacting with, your close friends, and yourself, where trueness can be different, because I can be alone and I can be untruthful to myself. I can be with my friends and I can be untruthful. I can help, I can help random strangers out on the street, and I can be untruthful to how I truly want to act.
Yeah. So I guess an attempt to explain it in a quantitative way just really brings us back to the point that it's not that easy, and it's more so just a blend of a bunch of different elements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which makes it kind of hard to talk about on the podcast. But
A
we're
little
gonna
bit.
we're gonna break it down, you know.
I think it's partially because it's a human science,
Yeah.
and the difference between studying, and memorizing human sciences versus natural sciences is, for the most part, you can explain a natural science. Like, I can tell you how the water cycle works, and I can tell you why the water cycle works, but I can't tell you with any more certainty than I could tell you, how far away the farthest star is. I couldn't tell you that with any more certainty than I could tell you that I'm going to act the same as Cameron. Like, we
Yeah.
we are very different, and the ways that we act and interact with other people are so they're so random that it's almost impossible to put any sort of specificity on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess, yeah, makes it a little hard to talk on the podcast about, but I think we can work it down a little bit.
Yeah, I think well, we talked about this before, just during a personal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things we talked about a lot is that it's kind of like, the way I talked about it, I remember, is like, it's kind of like a die,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where like you can only one side of it is showing at a time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very simple to flip it to another side,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like, because I mean, like, talking more in like a real life tangible example we can actually like talk about, like a lot of times people will just kind of like be goofy, be a little goofy and silly
Little
around
goofy.
their friends, and then like when you're all together, everyone's just messing around having a good time, but then like when you're talking to one of those people individually, they're like a lot more complex than you realize.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, like, by this time the viewers will have met Jack. And it's like, when I first met Jack, it's like I honestly didn't like him that much.
Uh-huh.
And it's like I just didn't know what to do with him, because he was just like, he kind of like came off as just like a goon, a clown,
A clowny guy.
But then like you really get to talking to him, and it's like, wow, this guy is actually really smart,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
has a lot to say. And it's like he's just an extreme example of being very introspective when you talk to him one on one, but
Oh yeah.
it's very much so a goofy goober when he's around his friends. So it's like, and that was just kind of like, obviously I know him a lot better now. That's just kind of an example of like, and that's what really started getting me thinking about this is like, what is like, is it your true self to like mess around with your friends? Like, is that a true reflection of who you are? Or is it a truer reflection of who you are when you're just talking to one of them one on one? You know, like, and that really got me thinking. And I think that, I mean, do you have anything to say about that?
I mean, in a sort of similar example, there was never a point where I didn't like you, but I mean, before we had our first like one-on-one interaction, I thought you were a goofy guy. I thought you were
Goofy guy. That's me.
I thought you seemed fun. Like you were definitely a person that I would have liked to get to know better sooner, but I don't know. It was weird because when we finally had our one-on-one time together, you were you were nothing like what I expected. And I don't think either version of you that I had conjured up in my mind is any less you. I just think they're different. I think
Yeah, for sure.
I think setting and scenario plays a lot into how we portray ourselves. Because, I mean, I remember back in high school we would eat lunch together, and that was always so much fun because there were so many people there, and you could join in on like 5 different conversations that all loosely connected to one another, and then when we would finally like hang out one on one, it was kind of mellow. It was more relaxed, and it just showed the complexity of you. Like you are my case study in this, that you are complex and you're not just the goofy kid that I used to eat lunch with in high school.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what it is for me, is just like I said, that's what got me thinking about this. And it's like, you said that, like, to paraphrase, people are adaptable, right? And they change their behavior depending on the setting and the people they're with. And to me, I don't think that makes us any less genuine. I just think it's just human nature, that we act differently around different people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you talked about, you got to see a different side of me when we talked one-on-one than you had before. And it's like, it's like, yeah, like that was a side. And I guess it's kind of like layered a little bit too, right? Because it's like and I don't know that much about the psychology things you were mentioning, but I imagine it's probably the kind of thing where like that same idea of like 3 different levels, know? And it's like, I just opened up on a different level to you and like shared with you a part of me that, not everyone gets to see,
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a part of me that like, obviously like when I'm alone with myself, that, I mean, I've had experiences that, were like really personal and just, it was just me on me, And then there, like, another example too is like, I'm talking one-on-one with my friends, but, when I, am alone with like my girlfriend, that's a very special side of me that she's the only person that's ever gonna get to know,
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't think that these different sides of people are any less genuine than the other. And that's my thing, is like, you mentioned that you think the public appearance is more important, but I think, I mean, I understand where you were coming from. I understand your point, but I think that, in my opinion, perhaps all of these different sides of a person are equally important, equally weighted, because, I mean, you're going to experience all those different things. And they're all different, and maybe one is more intimate than the other. But I think that they are all an important reflection of who you are as a person, because it's all how you
All of
present
you.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, now that you say that, I think it's kind of like milestones that you have to, like, checkpoints you have to reach,
Yeah.
where the most important one at the start is how you present yourself to everyone, because when you present yourself well to everyone, it opens the door to make, friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And then the you that you form in a friendship is important, because it can split off to, like, close intimate friendships or a close intimate relationship, and from there the paths diverge, and every version of yourself from that point on becomes the next most important thing. With your dice analogy, where, like, there's one side facing up, you are the dice. You are all 20 sides. You are
Mm-hmm.
as complex as every face on that dice or on that die,
Yeah.
but what matters is the face that you're showing right then.
Yeah.
One I'll bring in a Pixar movie, because I'm genuinely fascinated by the movie Inside Out.
It's
And
funny. Lucas talks about that one a lot too.
my hot take is that Joy is the villain of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of the conflict would have happened if Joy had just let sadness touch the core memory.
Yeah.
And when she didn't, the two of them got lost, and Riley went into her depressive, angry episode. You've seen the movie, I would
Yeah.
assume.
I have.
But I think that categorizing a person as simply as 5 base emotions is a disservice to the complexity of humans. And I think that
Yeah. I mean, like, no piece of media can really fully represent humanity, because it's like,
yeah,
characters in a film are only as complex
as the
as
character.
the actions that they do and the things that they say.
Mm-hmm.
You can extrapolate things about them,
Mm-hmm.
but really they're just a very limited collection of ideas that were put together.
That's true. That's
and
true.
it's just because, like, whereas with people, there are all of those things all the time, and there are parts of them, like, for a character, what you see is what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You can make assumptions about them, but that's it. But for people, what you see is so much less than what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, it's really difficult to make human-like characters. I mean, like, obviously we suspend our disbelief and just go with it
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, but, like, that's the thing, is, like, you can't really compare life. Well, I mean, art comes from life, but it doesn't go the other way around. You can't really compare life to art as effectively,
Mm-hmm.
because life is, like, the most complex thing, and everything else is just a boiled down version of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this.
All right, I got you.
Who do you think you are?
Ooh, boy. Who do I think I am?
Yes.
Well, I think I'm Cameron,
I'd hope so.
and I think I am a student, and I think I'm a musician,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm Daddy Big. And
Go more in depth, if
more
you
in
would.
depth.
Yeah.
More in depth.
Beyond the musician, which I know that's a big part of you, and beyond the student, and beyond.
You mean beyond the just listing the things that I am on paper?
Yeah. Who are you
Well,
as?
that's where it gets a little trickier. Who am I as a human being, as a person?
Yeah.
Whoa. That's the thing, is, like, I guess for me, that's not a very, I mean, I guess I've never really thought about it that closely.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for me, I've never really had to answer that question, because I'm able to just go through life as I am and not worry too much about the true nature of my being.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, it's like I'm not religious or anything. I don't
Uh-huh.
think about life that way. So I guess I don't, and I'm not even atheist. I'm agnostic, you
Uh-huh.
know. So I guess, and I know a lot of religion is about connecting yourself
To
to,
to God or to a higher
yeah,
power.
to something like that. And I guess, I just don't really think about life that way, you know. So to answer the question of who I am, it's like I don't really have a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't really have anything to tie myself to other than, the things that I am. But
Mm-hmm.
so that's a hard question,
Yeah.
especially because like I said, I don't have cause to consider that very often. Because that's getting into some serious, like, but if you want a question more complex than the things that I literally am and do, then that's getting into some serious philosophical territory.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, do you like if you ask that question, I'm sure you've thought about it yourself.
Of who I am.
Yeah.
Um, I've given it some thought. And I'd say beyond the I am a student, I am a musician, I'm Daniel. Um, I would say
Yeah.
I'd say I'm an advisor to a lot of people. I mean, and I'd say you are as well. I think friend and trustworthy. I think those are things that tie in. I think the who are you question is a question that doesn't really get asked enough.
Yeah. So I mean, like, when I asked you your answer, you also just listed things.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think part of the reason why people are so complex is because we don't think about how complex we are enough. I mean, like, I I know that I know because I have done, outside research on it. I know humanity is complex because I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it every single day, but I think because we see it every single day and we see it with every other person we interact with, we've become kind of numb to it, and it stops having as much relevance to us.
Yeah.
Because why am I going to think about how how wacky people are when every person is? And why am I going to think about how the choices that, you know, X friend made over Y friend made? Why would I think about that when there's an entire alphabet of friends who their choices I haven't even begun to comprehend or to consider?
Yeah. And I guess, I guess I'm just the kind of person that lives life without questioning, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I just I I work with what I can see and understand, and I understand what I know, and I know what I see, and it's like I guess I just don't. I mean, I've been somewhat interested in basic philosophy before, but I've never been the type to. Well, I guess maybe just more recently, I don't really think about those. I mean, obviously, I've considered philosophical things like probably everyone ever has,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like I think more and more I'm just getting to this point where I just maybe just take life more at face value in a
Mm-hmm.
way, you know? And I think that's just kind of comes down to just living, like I said, living without questioning things too much, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's a bleak existence or not, but for me, it's working out fine.
Do you find that when you look for face value and you take things in as they come in, uh, do you find that you are often getting the truth, or do you just, like you said, do you suspend disbelief and assume that I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you assume the good in people? Do you assume that that for the most part, humanity is generally good and has
Yes,
the
I think
best?
so.
Okay, I agree with you. I believe that for the most part, people are inherently good, and
Yeah.
there is a desire to help other people, and we have an inherent people pleasing aspect to us.
Yeah. I've talked about this before. I don't think on the channel before, but I just think that like part of the reason why we seem so divisive now is because like, I think that back in the day, like if someone was crazy, they would just be crazy and people
Mm-hmm.
would ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
But like nowadays, people can say like wild garbage on Twitter, and because
Mm-hmm.
it's wild garbage, people are going to notice it and pay attention to it.
Uh-huh.
And like just with the nature of the internet, I think that we often see and focus on the most extreme people there are, whereas there's this massive group of just people that aren't heard because they don't make a scene,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think there's just way more just good natured people that just don't really get seen that way because they're just have their own life
Yeah.
and don't try to go like do anything wild.
Mm-hmm.
I have that belief that there are those people out there
Um.
because like I said, we often see that extreme, but
Yeah.
that's just a very vocal minority of people. So
Sure.
I think because we're just wired to focus on the negative. Like you're gonna tell like on the news, it's gonna be the crimes that have happened
Mm-hmm.
and all of that stuff and what this like pointing the finger and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Whereas I just feel like with the nature of the internet and media and stuff, we see that that's like most of what we see, even though that's not all there is,
Yeah.
and I think it's just, and that's why like for me, I think it's important to, like I said, kind of taking things at face value more, just focusing on what I know,
Mm-hmm.
because like to me, the world in general is more just noise.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, the world is because like I can't really fully understand all of that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's a lot easier to just focus on my world and like my community and the environment I'm in. And like I said, maybe that's a bleak perspective, maybe that's a limited perspective, but like I don't think you can really say that you can be understanding and have a scope of perspective that goes very far outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just choose to kind of stay and focus because like I just focus on the things I can see in my own life,
Yeah.
and I think that's really how all of us probably live. Even if we do think about and it's important to think about the world and be understanding, but can you really widen your perspective that much? You know?
Mm-hmm. Um. You mentioned you mentioned Twitter as a case study.
Twitter.
And R.I.P. Twitter. But
Who knows where it'll be by now? It's like
it's
just now as we're recording, the whole paid checkmark thing rolled out
Oh.
like last week.
yeah.
It'll be several months after that. Who knows if Twitter is even a thing anymore?
I don't think it will be. But yeah. You mentioned like a vocal minority that's very radical.
Yeah.
To kind of segue this into the idea of selves and a true self.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Alex Jones, the popular conservative like conspiracy theorist?
I've like heard of him and like I just like some stories, like
Mhm.
I've heard his name thrown out. I've never like seen his stuff or anything, but
Yeah, he is in my opinion, he is a actually I can't say my true thoughts because I mean technically that could be defamation of character. But what I'll ask is
we don't do civil crime, not civil crime. What is it? I don't know. I took government a long time ago.
it'd be like a slander. No,
Yeah, we don't do slander.
yeah, we're not slanderous here.
Let's go.
Wait, no, this would be libel because it's spoken. Slander is press. That's besides the point.
I took that a long time ago.
Yeah. Do you think that figures such as Jones, who use their platform to, I'll call it hate speech, because that's not libel, that's what it is. Do you think people who use their platforms to share hate speech, is that the true representation of who they are, or do you think they've gotten so lost in a cause that, they may or may not even believe in, that now they have to hold up some image to protect themselves?
Well, I don't know. And the thing is, like, I mean, I guess there's that whole idea of faking things to the point where you don't even know who you are anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I have no way of knowing Alex Jones, what's in his head.
Uh-huh.
It's like, I don't even know, like, really who he is, but, someone like you're describing, like, yeah, maybe they are just a deranged asshole. But also, maybe they're just, like, making it up because they know it's going to get attention.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I mean, it's like all these like teens that get arrested from like the pursuit of TikTok clout.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do they really want to like literally film themselves committing crimes, or
Yeah.
like are they just trying to get the attention for it?
Yeah.
And it's like gets like asking a question like that very quickly gets into more complex questions about human nature,
Mm-hmm.
and also is confounded by the fact that I don't know him. I'm
Yeah,
not him.
that's-
So there's no way of knowing
Mm-hmm.
him specifically. But I think in general, there is that possibility that in the pursuit of the clout, people can just lose themselves in that. I mean, we've seen time and time again it have real implications on people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
People get arrested or lose their jobs because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like again, it's a thing of like those are the kids these days that like people complain about because like Fox News is gonna report on like the curly haired asshole who like stole I don't know like you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the perspective that older people have on us is like the wild people that just do crazy shit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I live with and see like people my age, and I understand like that. Yeah, we have a lot of promise, and there are a lot of really, really smart people. It's just like it's that same thing of like you only see the craziness, and that
Mhm.
just creates an echo chamber
Yeah.
of like just a bunch of garbage, and that's just like it's just that's why like I think that it's important to focus on what I can see,
Mm-hmm.
because you very quickly get into a bunch of like because like to me people on the internet like that's just a bunch of stories, it's just noise, like
Mhm.
yeah, it's entertaining, but to me like that's not even real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is just like now I'm getting even more into like what can we see as real or what can we see as reality.
What is real?
Yeah, and like for me, I don't know, for me I just keep my perspective more limited on life.
Mm-hmm. And I think with what you just brought up, it's important to note that with the idea of a self, there's also the idea of an individual versus a group, and
Yeah.
that it ties in the same way between, I can act crazy and I can record myself breaking laws for a TikTok when I'm with a group because there's that mob mentality behind it of I see you do this, I'll do it too.
Mm-hmm.
I read in my senior year George Orwell's 1984, and there's a passage in it where they're discussing the 2 minutes hate, which is something that it's put up by the government, and the main character Winston reflects on how he doesn't even know why he's screaming, he just knows he is. And then the book goes on. I won't spoil it for any of the listeners who haven't read it, but I think
1984 was 38 years ago. I think we might be able to handle spoilers.
but yeah, like the group versus individual mentality where am I the group that I act with, or am I myself as an individual aside from the group? Or what I believe, am I both?
Mm-hmm. I guess that brings us back to talking about true selves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're getting to the point where we can probably make some concluding statements about that
Yeah.
after all this meandering, you know? I mean, I think my original statement still holds true that you know, it's really a mix. I mean, we agreed that it's a mix of all different things, but I think it's more that like I said, a die that has a bunch of different faces that you can flip to and show a different one at any time.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
You are the die, but you are.
but
You are
you are the die, but you can other people can only see one face at a time.
Exactly. You know, in all ways, you are the die, but first and foremost, you are the face that you're showing.
Yeah, but I think more so than a perfectly cubic die, it's more so this weird amalgamated blob
Yeah.
that has various little curves and bumps and ridges and
Yep.
flat sides and
It's a 37-sided die.
yeah, it's something wacky, man. But yeah, I mean, was there anything else you wanted to point to?
Nothing I can really think of. I think we touched on a lot of the issues and topics at hand.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, I think that might about cover it.
Yeah.
We got a little deep there. A little deep.
Yeah, my final words would just be, who are you?
IDK.
IDK, man. IDK.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, I know there are there are some people that watch my YouTube channel that I know are real people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen them with my own two eyes.
Yes.
You know, it's like other people that like the randos love you. But like it's like even saying that, like, I know it's like a common sentiment among creators that like the whole idea of a parasocial relationship where viewers create a relationship and create an idea of this person in their head, whereas like on the flip side, like creators have no idea who any of their viewers are, especially like once they actually get bigger. You know, and it's like that's why when people say like love the fans, you know, it's like they don't love the people, they love the numbers.
Yes.
You know, and like yeah, there are real people that write comments for support, but like your brain doesn't process that the same way. You know, so it's like
they love the group of fans, not the individual fans.
Yeah, because it's impossible to.
Yes.
You know, but yeah, that's just again kind of my whole idea that I didn't expect to really bring out, but it's kind of a main theme now is just that I see what I can see, and that's just how I live my life, you know. And I think that's important because, you know, if you focus too hard on like stories on the internet and the news and stuff, like I feel like focusing on the news, like just I don't know, I just feel like that like you just lose yourself a little bit. Just forget about what's really happening. Because you focus on all this stuff that's going, I don't know.
All the negative.
IDK.
IDK, man.
But in, in any case, yeah, I think that about sums it up. Anything else?
That's about it.
All right. So let me ask you then, dear viewer, who are you? You're a number on my analytics screen. That's who you are, silly. So yeah, I guess IDK?
IDK, man.
Daddy Big
Out.